fantasy football junkies. You are tuned in to the #1 source for fantasy prognostication. It's Testosterone Fantasy Sports with your hosts, Jeff and Jesse. So listen up. Here's your chance to gain the edge over the competition and dominate your fantasy football league. Every week we break down all of the matchups and tell you who to play as well as who should ride the pine. This is the joint that every fantasy junkie needs, so check it out!
Come one, come all, NFL fans and Vikings aficionados, you've tuned in to Testosterone Fantasy Sports. Yeah, right here on TV, Jeff and Jesse doing the thing we love to do. We welcome Eric Nelson of WCCO, our good friend. Eric, welcome to the set, man. Good to have you on.
Great to be here. Great to be wearing purple, even in these bleak times of 1 win and 3 defeats.
Yeah, well, we've decided here that we would deviate a little bit from our normal schedule of doing things. We want to open the show here with Eric, talk about the purple. Jeff, we haven't heard from you at all yet on this segment either, so we want to get your thoughts on the purple. We're going to do a couple segments here with Eric about the purple because, Jeff, quite honestly, there's a lot of stuff happening revolving around our favorite team right now.
Yeah, well, we're 1-3 to start the season. Definitely not the start that we had hoped to get off to. There's been a lot of issues for us. You know, we had a couple games where we weren't really able to get Adrian Peterson going like he would want to do. The passing game hasn't been real electrifying. We're on to our second quarterback already of the season. So there's a lot going on, and I'm very happy to be here, you know, to talk about the purple with you guys because I think that, you know, since we have Eric here, you know, we know that you just got back from the game down there in Nashville, and you can maybe help shed some light on to what it is that we're going through as a team unit, and hopefully, you know, what we can do to kind of right the ship.
And I'll tell you what, Nashville's a great city. You know, they call it Music City, and the Vikings cranked out their own version of a sad country song. You know, there was heartache, there was misery, there was despair. I didn't see any cheating, but who knows, maybe that went on too. But yeah, that was a dismal effort because they made so many mistakes. They had 7 penalties. They had 3 fumbles they lost, an interception late in the game by Gus Frerotte when they had clawed to within 6 points.
Right.
You can't go into Tennessee's house, they're undefeated as you guys both know, and make those kind of mistakes and win a football game. I mean, one of the fumbles, the one by AP, gave Tennessee a 1st and goal at the 11. Another one, I think, set them up at the 38 of Minnesota. So they didn't even have to go very far to get their touchdowns. And they ran the ball. The Titans ran the ball fairly effectively. Chris Johnson, Lendell White. But, you know, Tennessee right now, they're geeked up. They feel pretty good. There might be a changing of the guard in the AFC South. Indianapolis has dominated the last few years. I think Tennessee thinks, you know what, we have a chance now to maybe overtake Indy. Maybe Indy's sliding a bit the other way.
So, I mean, just looking at the game from a visual perspective, it certainly seemed like we could move the ball a little bit on them. I mean, we finished with more yardage from scrimmage than they did, 333 yards to 275 yards. So our defense didn't play that poorly, but here again, Eric, it just seemed like the offense wasn't very inventive. There weren't any wrinkles put in to kind of catch the defense off guard. And, you know, from a fan's perspective, I'm starting to question the coaching staff here again. It doesn't seem like this team is coming out to play to win games. It's just a mediocre situation at best.
Yeah, it's very vanilla. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of creativity. I think a lot of us would like to see Chester Taylor and Adrian Peterson on the field at the same time, at least 30-40% of the time, because if you were to ask people, okay, who's the Vikings' #1 offensive player, we'd all agree it's AP.
Absolutely.
Who's number 2? I think it's Chester Taylor. Then maybe Bernard Berrien. Also, getting Bernard Berrien more involved in the offense. He had a few catches Sunday against the Titans. Bobby Wade had some catches. But I want to see Berrien getting the ball in space, even if it's a simple hitch. Maybe you get a block out there on the flank and let him go. I mean, he's got the great speed. You know, he had a ball he should have held on to. That's the other thing. He dropped a deep ball. Right now, the Vikings really, to me, they don't have a compass. They don't have any direction. They're like a boat out there in the middle of Lake Minnetonka, and they don't know which way's north, south, east, or west. And I think you hit on something. I think the coaching staff right now is under a lot of fire. We've already seen Scott Linehan and Lane Kiffin lose jobs this week. Brad Childress was 6-10 in year 1, 8-8 in year 2. He's 1-3 in year 4, or year 3, I should say. There's a lot of expectation. The bar very high for this team, and at the quarter pole, they're off to a bad start.
Well, one thing it seems like to me is that maybe we brought in so many new pieces over the course of the offseason that these guys never have played together ever, and you know, you're talking about a couple new guys on defense and are starting. We've got the rookie kid starting, while Mediu Williams, who's another new player, is injured. We bring in Bernard Berrien in the offensive side of the ball, and I just wonder if our chemistry hasn't really come around yet as far as a team cohesion thing goes. But then on the flip side of it, Brad Childress, it just doesn't seem like he wants to open up the offense at all. We saw Farad throw 266 yards against Tennessee, which is the most passing yards ever in under Brad Childress' leadership. So it just makes me feel like, you know, it's not there on any level. And one thing that was really evidenced to me in the most recent game was how undisciplined we played. It just when we came out of the second into the second half, we had the ball first, and it felt like, you know, our team should be able to put together a nice drive, something that was, you know, possibly scripted or planned for.
Right.
But we had an illegal formation, which I don't even understand how that's possible in the NFL.
Right, exactly.
You know, this is the rules. You got to get on the field in the right way. And then we had a false start. That was one of several. And then our 15-year quarterback was getting confused by the disguising cornerback blitz. I mean, you've been in the league 15 years, dude. You know, come on. You can
This is the
recognize
veteran.
what's going on.
This is why he's playing.
That's why he's in the game. And so all those things together make me really concerned that, you know, we're not going to be blowing that horn very much this year.
4 offensive touchdowns in the first 4 games. I mean, I just think really
breaking my heart here.
You are not going to win many games in the NFL. Now, if you want to look at the glass being half full, they're only a game out of first. Green Bay and Chicago are 2-2. So the division's still very winnable if they can get this thing turned around. Bryant McKinney comes back this week. I saw him earlier in the week out at Winter Park. He's ready to go. I don't know if he's going to start. You know, they may try to punish him a bit before they work him in as the starter. But I guarantee you he's going to get a lot of reps. And
second play of the game, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, maybe his punishment might be one play, as you said, then he's in. But you know, they need to go down to New Orleans and win Monday night. Now, I don't think they're going to. I think this is going to be a difficult game. The Saints can score points. They're 3-1. They're tough at the Superdome. But look, if you're a team that you say you are, a playoff team, then you got to go down into this hostile environment, this hornet's nest, the Superdome, and get a win. The other thing that I'm wondering, where's Thomas DePay? Is he on a milk carton? They let go of a Pro Bowler, Tony Richardson, who was a great character guy.
Absolutely.
He leaves, and Thomas DePay is a great story. He's a local guy via Liberia. I love his story, Gopher. But he's not playing. And you let go of Tony Richardson. Somebody explain to me what's going on there.
Well, they like Tahi, but now Tahi fumbled.
Coughed it up, though, in Tennessee.
So we're having issues.
There's a lot of unexplainable things to me that, I mean, we're talking about. You mentioned Chester Taylor. Chester had 1 touch last week, and arguably your second best offensive weapon. But out of everything that happened in last week's game, Eric, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on the decision late in the game. Granted, you're losing at that point by a total of 13 points, 30-17. But facing 4th and long, our coaching staff basically raised the white flag and essentially surrendered this game to the Titans. I don't understand why they punted on 4th down once Tavares Jackson had come into the lineup, man. That makes no sense to me.
It's one of the great mysteries of Week 4 in the NFL. You're down by 30-17. You need points. You need them in a hurry. Yeah, I don't know why they'd kick it away either, unless he just said, you know what, let's get out of the heat. Let's get out of Nashville and try to regroup, because it made no sense to me. I think that's a play that Brad Childress was taking a lot of heat on this week. One thing, though, in defense of Brad, if you remember late in the second quarter, Tennessee had a 4th and 2 at around the 3-yard line or so of Minnesota, and they flipped the ball out to Justin Gage. It looked to me like the Vikings stopped him. It looked like, it should have been a ball possession change to Minnesota, but the referee said, no, 1st down, Tennessee, 1st and goal. Brad appealed it. It was a spotty spot. I really thought it was a horrible spot and a big game swayer in the sense that Lendell White scored on the next play. So I will say that I think Minnesota caught a bad break there, but that's life in the NFL. You're not going to win every call.
And it was non-conclusive evidence in the video. You know, you really couldn't tell, but the one angle that looked like it would all you could see was a little head of the yardage marker. So
we thank you at home for joining us right now, Jeff, Jesse, and Eric on the set. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we've got to talk more about the Purple. They've got a must-win game. Eric touched on it very briefly. The Monday night game of the week, our club on national TV, going down to the Bayou, going to square off with a very explosive Saints team. We're going to dive into that matchup right after we take a brief break. Testosterone Week 5 show. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for sticking around, Vikings fans, through the break, and thanks for staying loyal to your club through thick and thin. We're here to kind of crank the intensity up, try to get a little bit of positivity flowing. Jesse, Jeff, and our good friend Eric Nelson from WCCO. Guys, the next team on the slate here for the Vikings, definitely a challenge. The Purple defensively last week gave up 30 points to a Titans team that ranks 22nd in the league in total offense. Now they're going to play a team, one of the best offenses in the league. In fact, the third best offense, averaging 28 points a game. Jeff, is this a recipe for disaster here? The Saints are a fantastic ball club.
Yeah, well, it seems to me like our strength on defense is stopping the other team's run. We're number 3 in the NFL at stopping the rush, but the Saints don't do a real great job of running between the tackles. Their best offensive weapon without Colston or Shockey on the field is Reggie Bush.
Right.
And his game is really around the edge to use his speed and his electric ability. So they like to throw the ball to him out of the backfield. He had a down game last week, and so make no mistake, he's going to be up huge for this game at home in front of the hometown fans on the country's biggest stage. So it's going to be a tough one for us. I hope that we put Chad Greenway on him because he's the only linebacker we have to match Bush's speed at all. And that's going to be tough for him anyway.
Right.
And then I'm really going to miss E.J. Henderson, man. It's going to be tough to not have him for a little bit going here.
Yeah, EJ's looked great. That's a big loss, Eric.
Yeah, it is. He had a monster game against Carolina, the only win of the year for the Vikings. He's very active. He's sideline to sideline. He benefits from the space eaters up front, Kevin and Pat Williams. You know, they occupy a lot of space. They gum up the middle, and EJ's there to roam around and make tackles. They're going to miss him, no question.
2 sprained toes.
And I saw him the other day at Winter Park as he limped out the door. So toe injuries are tough, especially when you're playing on field turf, which is what they have down there at the Louisiana Superdome. And, you know, Jeff brought up Reggie Bush. He's kind of a hybrid back down there. They use him in a unique role, but he's explosive. And the Monday night spotlight, don't discount that because it's being billed. I've already seen the promos. Adrian Peterson, Reggie Bush. You know, that's kind of the mantra ESPN's throwing out there to the viewers to get them to watch. So Reggie Bush is going to want to perform on national TV. I'm sure Adrian will too. But here's where I think you'll see coaching come into play. Sean Payton is a young coach with the Saints, much like Brad Childress with the Vikings. Sean Payton's an offensive guru. I mean, he comes up with creativity in the way the Saints come up there and, you know, use their plays offensively. The Vikings are vanilla. I mean, the New Orleans Saints are Neapolitan. You don't know what you're going to get with them offensively. And I think you're going to see a big difference coaching-wise in terms of offensive schemes. The Minnesota Vikings defense is going to, once again, have to stand tall, maybe play a lights-out game and win a game for their team like they did against Carolina.
Jeff, this Vikings defense has been much maligned in the passing game, and although there is no Marcus Colston in this contest for the Saints, no Jeremy Shockey, last week a different player for this squad stepped up, Lance Moore, making a name for himself on a nationwide level. So to me, it doesn't really seem too much like the Saints receivers are the key here. It really starts with Drew Brees. He's averaging 335 yards a game. Talk about Brees and the pressure he's going to put on our defensive secondary.
Well, it's going to be kind of partly dependent, I think, on what Jared Allen can do off the edge. You know, if Allen can kind of rattle Brees' cage a little bit and cause him to hurry up, it could be tough for him. Our passing defense has shown improvement from years past. We're only allowing 207 through the air. We're 17th in passing defense right now, which is an improvement. But I think that Drew Brees is going to throw the ball to whoever Cedric Griffin lines up against.
Absolutely.
And Cedric Griffin's been getting lit up all season so far, and it causes me concern at that position because we're not really very thick at the cornerback. So I think that they're going to find a lot of room to move the ball through the air, and that's the big question mark. You know, we don't match up well against a team through the air, and that's just what they do. So I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous we're going to be grabbing our ankles and gritting our teeth.
I think the Vikings are going to have to put up some points in this contest, Eric. I mean, you can't think you're going to turn this into a defensive struggle against the Saints. The Saints ranked 29th in the league against the pass. and are going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I see them scoring some points. To me, it would appear that in order for the Vikes to hang in this one, we're going to need a big game from Gus Frerotte. Talk about Frerotte a little bit. Is his hand going to be a problem? I mean, are we insane to even think that Frerotte could win a contest like this against a classy quarterback like Breeze?
Well, I don't think we're crazy because it's the NFL, and
Right.
anything can happen. If the planets are aligned. But I think you're right. I mean, I think clearly the Minnesota Vikings offense is going to have to play its best game of the season. And they really haven't had a good game yet. As I said earlier, it's painful. It's purple pain, but 4 offensive TDs in 4 games. The other TD was Antoine Winfield in that Carolina game. So if this becomes a fireworks show, if this becomes one of those points festivals, then you don't like the Vikings' chances of winning because New Orleans has more offensive weapons. I would think Drew Brees will put the ball up in the air so much that they're going to see that thing on the radar screen at New Orleans Airport.
I think so,
the
too.
balls are going to be flying through the air. Now, Gus Frerotte is going to have to come out, and he's going to have to establish Bernard Berrien, get Bobby Wade in. Sidney Rice. Where's Sidney Rice been this year? I mean, we were supposed to have this progression from the rookie year to year 2, get him involved, and obviously run the football. The Vikings just have to get it done. There's just no excuses. But the key to me is eliminate the turnovers. Turnovers did them in Tennessee, eliminate the penalties, or at least minimalize them. If they can do that, they'll have a shot. If you can take that crowd out of it, they're in a dome. We know what the dome noise is here in Minneapolis. The New Orleans fans are going to be loud. They're going to be gaga. They're going to be dressed up for Monday Night Football, and they're all going to be heading to Bourbon Street afterwards. So get them out of that building in a bad mood.
Right. Jeff, he mentioned that they're going to be billing this game as Reggie Bush against Adrian Peterson. Now, Adrian Peterson, one of the most explosive backs in the league, housing touchdowns from anywhere on the field last season. This season, he's lacked that trademark explosiveness. He hasn't made those big plays yet to get off a run of over 36 yards on the season. Talk a little bit about Adrian Peterson. Do you think the hamstring is a bother to him right now? Is he injured? Why hasn't he gotten off yet?
Well, I mean, he would have got off a 36-yard run last week against Tennessee, but the end zone got in the way. You know what I'm saying? So he's got that great game-breaking ability, and I think he's going to show off some of that as we go. He, to me, is the kind of player who can take over this game, and I think he's going to have a great game here on Monday night. I'm really excited to watch him. He's our best player and one of the best players in the NFL, but I think probably what he's dealing with is simply defenses have seen him now, and they know how to scheme for him. That you can watch film of his whole last year and kind of get a sense for what his nuances are and the way that he sets up plays to the outside early in games by juking to the inside and doing those types of things that he likes to do. And then, when we're in a hole, his touches get limited.
Right.
Eric,
I was really fascinated by some of the things you were saying during one of the breaks, talking a little bit about the Vikings as a franchise right now, kind of comparing our inflatable toilet as a dome stadium to the beautiful facility you saw down there, when you saw them play against Tennessee last week, and just kind of give the viewers at home a little bit of a take on our club, not only on the field, but as an organization. And it seems like to me that this game in New Orleans is a really big game, not only for the season, but really as a state of this franchise where we're at.
Yeah, I think these are turbulent times for the Minnesota Vikings, Jesse and Jeff. I don't think there's any debate about that. As far as franchise value goes, the Vikings are 32nd out of 32 teams. Now, they're worth almost $800 million. Don't shed tears for Ziggy Wolf. He's still making a lot of money. But in the NFL, they are 32nd. And they do have a stadium, the Metrodome, where they can generate very little revenue. And I've been around to all of them in the NFL. I haven't been to the new one in Indy, but I've seen it. I drove by it in May. And let me tell you, ours is right near the bottom of the barrel. Candlestick out there in San Francisco, McAfee out there in Oakland, Qualcomm in San Diego. Those 3 might be worse than the Metrodome, but not much worse.
Right.
And at least it's outside on grass. So the Minnesota Vikings, I've never understood why this state won't figure out a way to get this franchise a new venue so they can move forward. Because right now, if you look into the future of the Vikings, it's foggy. We don't know the stadium situation. Quarterback is clearly up in the air.
Oh, yeah.
We have a head coach who's unproven. We have an owner who will spend money, but I'm not sure he knows how to spend it the right way yet. So I'm wondering about the future of the Minnesota Vikings, and it pains me as a guy who's followed this franchise for many years that this state doesn't seem to care enough to figure out the stadium solution. Because I don't care if they're winning or losing, you don't want to lose an NFL team. The NFL as a business is as well run as 3M, Coca-Cola, or General Motors.
For sure, for sure. So we've got to get the fortunes turned around here. I brought the horn to the house the first time all season. I will blow the horn after the horn trumpet sounds. We hope the Vikings will win this game. It's a must-win game. I hope the team comes out, plays with passion, plays with heart, and I hope we have a much better, much more positive spin to put on it for you next week after a Vikings win. I'm going to blow this horn. We're going to sign off with Eric Nelson, and we'll be back right after this. Zach and Yeasty in the house to talk fantasy football coming up on Testosterone. You guys ready?
Let's go.
Skol, Vikings!